In her past life, Adlan Albadort executed his own daughter, Sire Weiyang. Albadort was, unexpectedly, a hidden daughter fanatic. My name is Sire Weiyang Albadort. Sire Weiyang has flowing, jet-black hair, and a pair of deep blue eyes, as vast and beautiful as the ocean. She is the imperial princess of the Albadort Empire in the northern part of the continent. She walked barefoot on the ground. Something unbelievable happened to me. I, who died before reaching adulthood, was actually returned to the age of 5. I died. Sire Weiyang walked barefoot towards the execution grounds. The surrounding nobles, seeing her, parted slowly. Go to hell, you damned witch. Throw rotten vegetables at her. Shire on the blanket. To be precise, I was executed. I knelt on the execution grounds, and the people below kept throwing rotten vegetables at me. You slut, go to hell. I heard she even learned black magic. She's really crazy. She's not fit to be the imperial princess every time. Perhaps they are right. I'm not fit to be the imperial princess every time. Sire Weiyang barely survived after birth. I barely made it to this day. Now, by the supreme law of the Albadort Empire, the criminal, Sire Weiyang, is sentenced to death. She closed her eyes tightly. It's all over now. Your Highness, how did things turn out like this? A distant voice came. She looked up. Your Majesty the Empress, Xiaobel and Adlan were both standing in the distance, along with her. It's so unfair. I didn't do anything wrong. Why, father, why? Commence the execution. The executioner stretched out his hand, and a red spirit bullet flew out. It stopped above Sire Weiyang's head. To end my life like this, the outside is too bright. Third, a voice suddenly came. Just now, when I was drifting away, I thought I heard father's voice. What kind of expression would father have? I thought I was going to die like that. Sire Weiyang walked to the mirror and looked at herself, but when she opened her eyes, she saw her 5-year-old self. At first, I thought I was dreaming. She looked down at her small hands, but, when she saw the spacious room she was in. Was my room always this big? Sire Weiyang put her hand to her mouth. This isn't a dream, couldn't be this real. Knock knock. Your Highness, it's time to get up and eat. A maid walked in from outside and said. She turned around and nodded. What surprised me even more was, dang. Sire. Occupation. Chief maid. Level. Affection. Feeling. Impatient. Above her head, floating, was this status. As expected, I can see it. Sire Weiyang thought. She looked at Sire. Dang. Why is she so slow today? She's so annoying. Hurry up and eat, Your Highness. Sire gave a professional smile. I started to see these semi-transparent windows that display inner thoughts. Sire Weiyang took a bite of food. This is disgusting. The content was somewhat shocking. Sire saw this and said, His Majesty will be angry if you're picky. Sire Weiyang's face was a little gloomy. Sire was the only one in the palace who was kind to me. But that kind Sire, dang. Sire. What's wrong with her lately? So annoying. Her inner thoughts were actually like this. Also, what's with this pepper-filled soup and hard bread? Did I eat this kind of stuff when I was little? Sire said with a gloomy face, What are you doing? Why aren't you eating? Wah. Sire Weiyang's body started to tremble. Then, with a swipe of her hand, she knocked over the food on the plate. I hate pepper. This isn't food at all. Seeing this, Sire was stunned. What's going on? Although the food was hard to swallow, I intended to maintain my princessly elegance and finish it obediently. Why isn't my body listening to me? Sire Weiyang Albadort. Body and soul synchronizing. Actions will follow the body. Seeing this, Sire Weiyang was taken aback. What is this? This is outrageous. Is this going to make me act like a 5-year-old? Sire Weiyang looked up at Sire and thought, if I act like this, definitely be hated again. I don't want to be hated again. I don't want to be hated like I was before, or even executed. Now I can see people's statuses. If I use these statuses well, wouldn't I be able to avoid being hated? In the end, she didn't eat properly and changed her clothes. Is there anything scheduled for today? Sire Weiyang sighed. Do I have to go out today? Sire turned her head and said, His Majesty is coming today. Have you forgotten already? Sire Weiyang's face suddenly paled. Dang. Sour. Stupid. I've told her so many times, but she still forgets. Here's His Majesty. The father who mercilessly killed me, his daughter. Thinking of Adeline's appearance, Sire Wei Yang trembled in fear. I'm scared. I'm not ready yet. Just then, footsteps came from afar. His Majesty has arrived. Sire Wei Yang jumped in fright. Sire Wei Yang. Adlan has arrived. Seeing him, Sire Wei Yang trembled as she thought, I should greet him properly, otherwise he might hate me again for being disrespectful. She stared blankly at the status floating above Adeline's head. Dang. Adlan Albert Ort. Occupation. Emperor. Level. Affection. Feeling. Really wants to see his daughter. Dang. Emperor's thoughts. Today's weather is so cold. Perfect for seeing the cutest Sire Wei Yang in the world. Dang. Emperor. Damn those tools, making me late by a minute. This is practically treason. Tools, just you wait. I'm going to investigate your family history, and chop off your heads. I've been too lenient with you. Sire Wei Yang was stunned. Father. What's going on? You didn't run away today. Adlan looked down at Sire Wei Yang. Dang. Adlan Albert Ort. Thoughts. She can actually stare at me for so long. She's grown up a bit. Seeing this sentence, Sire Wei Yang felt dizzy. Father wants to see me. She lowered her head. How? This is impossible. In her past life, her father was incredibly ruthless, and even executed his own daughter. Thinking of the scene of being executed in her past life, and being pelted with rotten vegetables by others, Sire Wei Yang felt extremely terrified. Her body trembled uncontrollably. Sire Wei Yang Albert Ort, seeing her own father, Adlan Albert Ort, and the status floating above Adlan Albert Ort's head, was shocked and confused. Adlan, seeing Sire Wei Yang's fearful appearance, felt distressed. He turned and said, I'll leave now. Dang. Adlan Albert Ort. Thoughts. This is my limit. But she still held on for a whole minute today. Sire Wei Yang stared at him blankly. Could he be worried about me? If what that status bar showed is truly Adeline's true feelings, what if Adlan really wants to see me? Sire Wei Yang looked at Adeline's back. If he wants to see me, that's great, Your Majesty. Your Highness didn't run away today. A grey-haired servant said. The grey-haired servant and the maid saw Sire Wei Yang run towards Adlan. Her heart pounded. Sire Wei Yang ran behind Adlan and tugged on his clothes. Adlan felt it, turned around, and looked at her. Do you need something? She impulsively grabbed his clothes. She clutched his clothes tightly. She looked up and cautiously opened her eyes, looking at the status above Adeline's head. Boo. But, dang. Adlan Albert Ort. Thoughts. My daughter actually grabbed me. I'm so moved. Thoughts. Her hands are so small, yet she can firmly grasp my clothes. Sire Wei Yang breathed a sigh of relief. It's okay. Maybe this status bar is just my own illusion. But if it's real, if Adeline's heart is truly like this, why did I end up like that in my past life? I really want to know why I was executed in my past life. Also, as long as I can change the future, Sire Wei Yang. Adlan looked down at her with a gentle expression on his face. I need to act like a princess. Be calm. Sire Wei Yang swallowed her saliva and nervously spoke to Adlan. Da. She stammered, it's not like that. She looked at Adlan. She hesitated for a long time, without saying what she wanted to say. That's not what I wanted to say. She bowed to Adlan. Your Majesty, I would like to request some of your time. I want to have tea with you. That's what I wanted to say. She felt embarrassed. It's all because of my body's disobedience. I always end up acting like a child. What if he gets angry at me for seeing me so impolite? Sire Wei Yang put her hands on her cheeks and closed her eyes tightly. Adlan didn't speak for a long time. Sire Wei Yang opened her eyes and peeked. Isn't the princess meal too little? Adlan looked at the maid beside him. What's going on? The maid panicked and said, no, it's not. Adlan asked with a gloomy face. Then why is Sire Wei Yang asking for bread at this time? The maid fearfully lowered her head shaking non-stop. Isn't he going to be angry with me? Seeing this scene, Sire Wei Yang was confused. The servant glanced at Sire Wei Yang. Then he walked up to Adlan and said, "Your Majesty, I think Her Highness might want to have breakfast with you." "What? When did I say that?" Sire Wei Yang gave the servant a shocked look. Adlan put his hand on his chin. "Is that so? Affection. Affection. This is a little difficult. Affection." Sire Wei Yang watched as affection continuously popped up around Adlan. Adlan turned around. "I'll go back and confirm my schedule and let you know. How did things turn out like this?" Sire Wei Yang sat in front of her dressing table. The maid was brushing her hair. "We're having dinner together tonight." The maid vigorously brushed Sire Wei Yang's hair. "Oh?" Sire Wei Yang glared at the maid. "His Majesty will be angry if you keep complaining." The maid pointed at her and said, "Fine." Sire Wei Yang lowered her head and sulked. "Adia, you help Her Highness with the final preparations." The maid shouted outside. Looking at the dark-haired maid in front of her, Sire Wei Yang felt a little strange. So strange. These maids all have dark hair. Adia said to Sire Wei Yang, "Your Highness, let me help you get ready. Please close your eyes." Sire Wei Yang looked at her with a troubled expression. "Adia was always very strict and scary in my past life. I have to be careful not to be scolded by her." Sire Wei Yang nervously looked at the status floating above Adia's head. Adia. Occupation. Maid. Level. Affection. Feeling. Adia's affection is actually much higher than Sire's. Poor little princess, her hair is so beautiful. Just a natural braid looks good too. I can make it even more beautiful. Seeing this, Sire Wei Yang was stunned. "Done? I'm finished." Adia patted her clothes lightly and said, her actions were gentler than the maid's, as if she was truly concerned about me. "Your Highness, you must be dignified during dinner. You can't make any mistakes." Adia looked at Sire Wei Yang. "Can you do it?" Sire Wei Yang nodded. "I understand now. How insincere the seemingly gentle maid is, and how much Adia, with her stern exterior, cares about me. All right, let me try. Try not to be hated like I was in my past life. The outcome should be different. Your Majesty, Princess Sire Wei Yang is here." Adlan looked outside and said, "Let her in. This is my first step." Thump thump. She swallowed nervously and looked at Adlan anxiously. "Just get through 2 nights' dinner. Including my past life, I don't know how long it's been since I've had dinner with Adlan. I need to behave well." "Right, I heard His Highness the Crown Prince is also joining us for dinner." Adia whispered behind Sire Wei Yang. "My brother is coming too, Damien Albertort. Unlike me, who was born from a concubine, has the current Empress' biological son. He was always cold to me in my past life." "Adia, what about Her Majesty the Empress?" Sire Wei Yang looked at her nervously. "Her Majesty won't be joining us for dinner tonight." Adia lowered her head and said. Sire Wei Yang was disappointed. If Her Majesty were also present, the dinner atmosphere might be a little more relaxed. Will it really be okay today? Sire Wei Yang arrived and saw Adlan Albertort, Emperor of the Albertort Empire, and Damien Albertort, Crown Prince of the Albertort Empire. "Come and sit." Adlan said to her. "Yes, Your Majesty." Sire Wei Yang sat opposite Damien. The atmosphere around them quieted down. Sire Wei Yang Albertort, Adlan Albertort, and Damien Albertort had dinner together. Sire Wei Yang peeked at Adlan and Damien. It was the same quiet dinner as before, but father status bar. Affection. Affection. I didn't do anything. Why does his affection keep going up? Sire Wei Yang looked up at Damien opposite her. He should be the same as in my past life. Damien Albertort. Occupation. Crown Prince. Level. Affection. Feeling. Excited to see his sister. Thoughts. I really want to talk to her. Seeing this, Sire Wei Yang felt dizzy. Something must be wrong. What is going on? Adlan looked at Sire Wei Yang and asked, Sire Wei Yang, is the food not to your liking? Sire Wei Yang looked at him fearfully. How could that be? It looks delicious, but no, if I eat too much, I'll be scared. She stared at the food in front of her, and drool couldn't help but flow down. But if I leave it, I heard that the food that the commoners are starving for is thrown out from the imperial kitchen. The commoners are still suffering. That vicious princess is an evil witch. Thinking about this, she felt a wave of guilt. I can't let this happen again. Sire Wei Yang shuddered. Adlan Albert Ort. Feeling very worried about his daughter. Thoughts. Her complexion doesn't look good. I'm so worried. Is she unwell somewhere? Sire Wei Yang looked at him. Father is worried about me. Is this real? Thinking of this, her heart warmed. The food is delicious. Good. Then eat more. Yeah, eat more. Damien echoed. Eat more. Sire Wei Yang said blankly. Rumble. But Her Majesty said I should always watch my weight. An imperial princess like me, who can't even use magic, should pay more attention to her appearance. That's my only use. Sire Wei Yang felt bad. Her stomach kept rumbling, but, since father said I can eat. Sire Wei Yang picked up her cutlery and stared at the food in front of her. Just then, Adlan suddenly reached out and cast a spell on the plate. The plate floated in the air. My meat. Sire Wei Yang cried out in surprise. She quickly covered her mouth. Oops, I was so surprised I cried out without thinking. How careless. What do I do? I'm helping you eat. It's easier this way. Damien explained to her. Affection. Affection. Adlan Albert Ort. Thoughts. She actually said my meat. There's a limit to cuteness. How can she be so cute? It's good that he didn't get mad, right? Sire Wei Yang breathed a sigh of relief and picked up her fork to eat. It's so nice to be able to understand other people's inner thoughts. In my past life, I was always too focused on the tense atmosphere at the table to digest anything. Today seems to be going well. As Sire Wei Yang ate, she felt a gaze. So delicious. Why do I feel like someone is watching me? Damien Albert Ort. Thoughts. Cute. Too cute. Little aunt. Sire Wei Yang saw the status floating above Damien's head. My brother thinks him cute. He was so cold in my past life. His reaction now is so different from before. Damien glanced at the pepper on the table. If I suddenly reach out, will I scare Sire Wei Yang? Sire Wei Yang picked up the pepper and handed it to him. Here. Is this for me? Damien asked in surprise. Sire Wei Yang nodded. Damien accepted it with great emotion. Thank you. Affection. Damien Albert Ort. Thoughts. How did she know I wanted pepper? She actually talked to me first and took care of me. I'm going to record today's events in my magic journal. That's not necessary. Sire Wei Yang looked at him and thought, oh no. I'm in trouble. Because I haven't had such delicious food in a long time, I lost control and ate a lot. Sire Wei Yang rubbed her round belly and thought contentedly, Your Highness, you ate 2 large pieces of meat at dinner. Sire bowed and said. Sire Wei Yang jumped in fright. Sire looked at her. Your Highness, haven't I told you many times? You need to control your food intake from a young age so you won't suffer later. Sire put her hand firmly on Sire Wei Yang's shoulder. But father said I could eat. She looked at Sire with a troubled expression. His Majesty is very angry. I heard you ate a lot without restraint. Sire continued. Sire Wei Yang's hair stood on end. Could he have been testing me? In my past life, Her Majesty the Empress had Sire test me like this, saying that as royalty, I must always be vigilant. If this dinner was also a test, she was terrified. Her body trembled uncontrollably. What do I do? I shouldn't have eaten. I should have politely refused. Sire stood up. So you have to fast for a day. Do you understand? Yes. Sire Wei Yang lowered her head. Sire turned to leave. Sire. She stretched out her hand and shouted urgently, boo. But I feel sick. Sire turned her head and looked at her sternly. You said you're sick. Don't be ridiculous. Don't leave me alone. Stay with me, Sire. Affection. Negative. Thoughts. Sick children are so troublesome. I don't want to hear her crying. So annoying. Sire bent down and said to her, then I'll wait outside. If you feel really, really sick, call me. I think it's best for you to rest on your own. Sire Wei Yang lowered her head, tears welling up. So strange. I was so full just now, and felt a little happy. Why does my heart ache so much now? She lay in bed and pulled up the covers. I want to be a child who isn't hated. But even with this ability, it feels like I'm still stuck in the same place. She closed her eyes. Can I really change the future? That morning was different from usual. Before, Sarah always woke me up early in the morning, but today, the sunlight streamed in through the window. How bright it was. Saya Weian rubbed her eyes. Was she angry that I was sick? So she didn't come to wake me up. She accidentally saw the clothes on her body. But how did my clothes get changed? The room was silent. What's going on? What happened? Speaking of which, I actually slept because I was sick. He picked up the bell on the table and rang it. The perfect royal actually slept. It seems he's not only incompetent, but also weak. At the thought of what the people would say, Saya Weian's face darkened. Everyone will definitely think him a useless princess. She closed her eyes tightly. No, Saya Weian's illness worsened. Tell Sarah to let him rest. After Saya Weian woke up, he blamed himself for sleeping because of his illness. He looked at the exceptionally quiet room, feeling uneasy. The door opened. Saya Weian looked up to see Ariel walk to the bedside. Your Highness, you're awake. Would you like to sleep a little longer? No, it's fine. Later, His Majesty will come to speak with you, Ariel said with her eyes closed. Saya Weian's face became even more grim. Father. Is he coming to punish me for yesterday's dinner? Knock knock knock. We disturbed your Highness. We are on our knees begging for your forgiveness. Please, beg His Majesty for mercy. We didn't do it on purpose. It's all Sarah's fault. Saya Weian stared at the clothes in front of her. What's going on? Although I don't know what they did wrong, they are ostensibly seeking my forgiveness. Saya Weian saw the status bars floating above their heads. Shocked. Annie. Favor. Thoughts. To die. It's not my fault he got sick. Jessie. Favor. Thoughts. What bad luck to encounter this. Saya Weian's body trembled uncontrollably. So vicious. You may leave. It's time for Her Highness medicine. Ariel walked over and said to them, Ariel. Affection. Distress. Thoughts. Her Highness is still sick. What are they doing? Saya Weian looked at Ariel worriedly. Ariel, I can't cry, I mustn't cry. It must be because of the synchronization that I keep wanting to cry. Adlan Albert. How did you get in? What are you doing? They stood up in unison. What are you doing here? Adlan Albert continued to ask. Father. Father, is he really coming? Saya Weian looked up at him. I clearly ordered no one to enter. Adlan Albert looked coldly at the maids. We. Speak. Saya Weian shuddered. Reflect on your actions. My daughter is still sick, and you dare to disturb her. Adlan Albert glared at them menacingly. WWE deserve to die. The maids said, lowering their heads. Seize them immediately. Saya Weian looked at the floating status bar above Adlan Albert's head. Adlan Albert. Affection. Furious. Thoughts. They don't know how to care for her when she's sick, only how to beg for forgiveness. These hateful creatures. Thoughts. Such a small child, having to endure illness alone. How sad. Seeing this scene, Saya Weian's tears couldn't be held back any longer. Father, for me. Adlan Albert looked coldly at the maids tied up on the floor. Drag them out and lock them in the dungeon. Your Majesty, spare us. We were wrong. Forgive us. Adlan Albert walked to Saya Weian's side, his expression softening considerably. Don't worry, I'll send new maids to take care of you. Millimeter. Saya Weian bit her lip. Although I don't know what's going on, I have to stop him. Even if it means replacing all the maids. Ariel, he called out hurriedly, no. Saya Weian. Adlan Albert looked at him in surprise. Saya Weian quickly got out of bed, ran to Ariel's side, and grabbed her dress. Ariel, no. Saya Weian, these maids must be investigated first, Adlan Albert explained. Saya Weian's face became even more distressed. What should I do? If this continues, I'll be separated from Ariel. Your Highness. Ariel turned to look at her. No. Only Ariel cares about me. Try to explain it to father properly. Ariel is very good to me. Saya Weian clung tightly to Ariel's dress. No. No. She started to cry loudly. Ariel, no. Wah wah wah. Ariel is always good to me. She's different from the other maids. I wanted to explain it to him like this, but I couldn't say it. It's all because of the synchronization. I have an adult mind, but my body is still a child's. I can't cry anymore, or it'll be disliked. No adult likes a crybaby. Stop it. Adlan Albert walked up to her and gently patted her head. All right, Sire Weian. Adlan Albert turned to look at Ariel. Your name is Ariel, right? You can be my daughter's personal maid. Ariel looked at him in surprise. But, Your Majesty, I'm not qualified. Adlan Albert. Thoughts. Even her voice is so cute. Could she be the reincarnation of a manor spirit? In any case, Sire Weian must have her reasons for choosing this maid named Ariel. I said you are. Adlan Albert crossed his arms. Yes, Your Majesty, Ariel, Sire Weian cried out to Ariel. Ariel breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you, Your Highness. Are you feeling better? You seem to still have a fever. He gently patted Sire Weian's back. Sire Weian looked at Adlan Albert. Father actually listened to me and decided not to punish Ariel. I won't forget Father's warm touch. He came here probably to punish the maids who mistreated me. How strange. They are the ones in trouble, but I feel so happy. One day, Sire Weian sat at the dining table, looking at the delicious food. It's been a while. Adlan Albert looked at her with a hint of concern. Are you feeling better now? Although I know Father doesn't dislike me now, I'm still nervous. Sire Weian lowered her head. Yes, Your Majesty, but why did he suddenly call me out? She stealthily glanced at Adlan Albert. Adlan Albert. Affection. Feeling. My daughter seems lost. Oh, why does he look disappointed? Sire Weian sat up straight. Did I do something wrong? Although I don't know why he's disappointed. Her fingers fidgeted restlessly, but since his favorability is increasing, there shouldn't be any major problems. I have to perform even better from now on. She suddenly gulped. Last time, when I was sick, Father didn't care. If I make a mistake, Father might dislike me again like before. Adlan Albert glanced at Sire Weian and asked with concern, why aren't you eating? Sire Weian raised her head and looked at him with wide eyes. She stared at the delicious food on the plate. It must be delicious. It must be very sweet. It must melt in my mouth. Just one should be okay, right? Just one. When Sire Weian and Adlan Albert dined together again, she was extremely cautious, afraid of making a mistake. Adlan Albert. Thoughts. She does seem small. Or is it because she's so cute that she appears even smaller? Sire Weian saw the floating status bar above Adlan Albert's head. Did Father say I'm small? She stared at the delicious cake on the table and gulped. Then I should be able to eat it, right? Sarah never allowed me to eat sweets. The first time I tasted sweets was at the debutante ball when I was 14. But even then, I was taught to pay attention to my appearance and was subsequently subjected to even stricter control. I never had sweets again. If you don't like this, you'll have them bring something else. Adlan Albert said when he saw that she hadn't eaten for a long time. Sire Weian quickly shook her head. No, what did I just do? I was staring at the sweets, thinking about my past life, and my mind wandered. I accidentally made a mistake. Adlan Albert. Feeling. From disturbed to surprised. Thoughts. Even her reply is so cute. Couldn't she be my daughter? Adlan Albert's favorability soared. Sire Weian breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing this. It seems like it's okay. Will you tell anyone? Tell anyone what? That you ate sweets. Adlan Albert looked at her with a puzzled expression. Why yes. Adlan Albert saw her shyly lower her head and thought, how cute. It seems she's embarrassed to eat in front of others. Don't worry, eat. I won't tell anyone. Hearing his words, Sire Weian felt relieved. He pushed the sweets towards Sire Weian. Here, eat. Sire Weian carefully took a piece of the sweet. Then I'll just have one. She took a bite. So sweet. It's delicious. Seeing her happy expression, Adlan Albert. Feeling. Affection constantly rising, Sire Weian glanced at the plate in front of her. When did I eat so much? This is outrageous. I actually ate so many macarons. Adlan Albert reached out and put a bit of icing on the cake. Try this too. Sire Weian looked at the cake happily. So pretty. I heard this kind of cake tastes better when it's iced. Father actually used magic to ice the cake for me. Eat it quickly, it'll melt soon. Adlan Albert watched her with a satisfied expression. Adlan Albert. Thoughts. She likes it so much. It seems Hugo was right. The way she eats is also so cute. Sire Weian took a bite with her fork. Does dessert suit your taste? Sire Weian smiled brightly. It seems I can find out every day. One day. How about wearing this blue ribbon today? Sire Weian sat in front of her dressing table. This color should match your highness' dress. Ariel said to her. Okay. Ariel gently styled Sire Weian's hair. With Ariel taking care of me instead of Sarah, I feel so at ease. Since Sarah was dismissed and Ariel became the chief maid, she's no longer as stern as before and smiles at me often. Noticing Sire Weian's gaze, Ariel asked, Your Highness. Why are you looking at me like that? I like it when Ariel smiles often. Hearing these words, Ariel's heart warmed. Your Highness, I didn't take good care of you before. You'll definitely do better from now on. It's okay. Sire Weian chuckled softly, then she turned her head thoughtfully. Speaking of which, I remember Ariel has a sick younger sister at home. Her sister seems to be seriously ill. All right, Your Highness, we should go. Ariel said. Okay. Sire Weian walked down the hallway. I'm going to see the Queen today. Although I'm familiar with this palace, I'm still somewhat nervous for some reason. The Queen was the only one who was kind to me in my past life. She always listened to me patiently, although I ate a lot yesterday, which makes me a bit worried. Your Majesty, Sire Weian is here. Let her in. Sire Weian walked in and curtsied to Sire Albert. Greetings, Your Majesty. But seeing her again, I feel even more excited. Sire Albert. Queen, level. Favor. Feeling. Extremely furious. Thoughts. That little brat. Her face is so irritating even today. Sire Weian saw the status bar above Sire Albert's head, and her expression changed drastically. Sire Albert smiled kindly at Sire Weian. Come, sit down. Sire Weian sat opposite her, occasionally stealing glances at her. Sire Albert smiled at her and said, You look beautiful today as well. Thank you. Sire Weian was extremely nervous. Your Majesty, her gentle smile and kind words are exactly the same as before, but her favorability is actually negative. Sire Albert. Thoughts. Damn brat. She looks so much like him, it's disgusting. And she's wearing a blue ribbon too. I heard something unpleasant happened to you recently. Sire Albert put her hand on her cheek and looked at Sire Weian with a worried expression. Her inner thoughts are so different from her outward appearance. How can this be? Sire Weian lowered her head. Why yes. It was my fault. Sire Albert said apologetically. I trusted Sarah so much. I didn't expect her to be so corrupt behind my back. It's all my fault for not managing the servants well. Can you forgive me? Seeing her like this, Sire Weian fearfully closed her eyes tightly. It's okay. This is so strange. Sire Albert spoke softly. Sire Weian felt the world spinning. The Queen I trusted and followed in my past life actually thinks this way. I don't want to know. By the way, Your Highness, you met with His Majesty yesterday. Where did you go? Sire Albert asked curiously. We went to the Imperial Garden. Sire Weian looked up and glanced at the floating status bar above her head. Sire Albert. Thoughts. He actually went there. Favor. Is that His Majesty's private garden? Sire Albert got up and walked towards her, asking. Yes. She replied softly. You must have been scared, right? Sire Albert pretended to care. She lowered her head. Yes, actually, I wasn't scared. I was very happy, but I can't seem to tell the truth. Sire Weian went to see the Queen, Sire Albert. Seeing the floating status bar above her head, she was terrified. Sire Albert was satisfied with Sire Weian's frightened look. It's normal to be afraid of His Majesty. He's the pillar of the empire and must maintain a strict attitude towards his people. She reached out and touched Sire Weian's face. But even if you can't be close to His Majesty, you can always be close to me, understand? Thank you. Seeing Sire Weian's obedient appearance, Sire Albert thought to herself, the princess is so strange. So stressful. I want to leave this place. Sire Weian thought to herself, by the way, in a few months, it will be time for your highness to choose a fiancé. Sire Albert had just finished speaking when Ariel's voice came from outside. Your Majesty, Crown Prince Damien requests an audience. Oh, quickly invite him in. Sire Albert looked towards the door and said hurriedly. Mother, Damien Albert walked in. Sire Albert hurried over. Crown Prince, why didn't you inform us beforehand? Sire Weian took 2 steps forward. She hesitated slightly and thought, it's the first time I've seen my brother since that dinner. Should I greet him? Damien Albert looked at Sire Albert. I came to see Sire Weian. I didn't know you were in a meeting. Ah, the princess has returned. Sire Albert quickly explained. Sire Weian flinched involuntarily. Sire Albert turned to look at Sire Weian. Isn't that right, Your Highness? Why yes. Sire Weian lowered her head fearfully. Damien Albert asked indifferently, is that so? Then we'll see each other next time, Your Highness. Sire Albert looked at Sire Weian meaningfully. Go ahead. Sire Weian left the room, the same icy gaze as in my past life. During dinner that day, I thought he was different from my past life, but I was wrong. Crown Prince is known as a genius. Always praised. Someone like me definitely won't catch his eye. Oh dear, Your Highness, what's wrong? Ariel saw Sire Weian's pale face and worried. You don't seem to be in good spirits lately. I specially prepared cake for you. Don't you like it? Sire Weian looked at the cake glumly, holding the fork without taking a bite. But I can't eat too much. What are you talking about? I specially prepared this for you. Of course, you should eat more. Ariel said with a displeased expression, specially prepared cake for me. Sire Weian thought to herself. Did you forget what Sarah told you before? Ariel probably guessed why Sire Weian wasn't eating the cake. You said that to become a perfect royal, I have to learn to restrain myself from a young age. I can't even control my appetite. How can I be a royal like this? Sire Weian burst into tears. I am sorry, Ariel. Ariel's expression softened. Your Highness, Sire Weian cried, I ate so much during dinner and in the garden before. I was wrong. Did I accidentally let myself go? I ate so many specially made sweets. I'll be disliked. Ariel hugged Sire Weian. Your Highness, you did nothing wrong. Ariel. Thoughts. Poor little princess. Children need to eat more. Ariel put her hand on Sire Weian's, saying gently, so from now on, whether it's a meal or a snack, you should eat well, especially the ones His Majesty gives you. Really? Sire Weian looked up at Ariel. Of course. Ariel said with certainty. Sire Weian was deeply moved. I understand. I'll eat well from now on. Really? That's great. Seeing her obedient look, Ariel immediately picked her up in a hug. Sire Weian, held tightly, whispered, I can't breathe. Sire Weian, age, body and soul synchronization. Actions will follow the body. Well, it increased from 2, but it's still too slow. When will my actions follow my soul instead of my body? Sire Weian looked down at her hands. It makes me so frustrated. She glanced at her status, a red star-shaped decoration on the blue ribbon. I feel like I've seen that pattern somewhere before. All right, Your Highness, let's have some cake. Ariel said with a smile. Okay. Sire Weian turned around and ate the cake contentedly. It must be my imagination. In the following days, I ate and slept well in the Princess Palace. Although I still feel a little anxious when I eat. Okay, calm down. Ariel. Ariel. Sire Weian ran to Ariel's side. Ariel turned around and asked gently, Your Highness, do you want a snack or a meal? No, I'm not hungry. Sire Weian clasped her hands. Lately, she always wants to go outside whenever she gets a chance. Can I go out today? If you're busy today, I can go out another day. Your Highness, Ariel turned and looked at her. Of course, you can go out. Really? She looked at Ariel with joy. This is your palace. You can do whatever you want. Ariel said, standing in front of her. Yes, that's so. Sire Weian felt something was strange. Did you always think you couldn't go out? So you stayed inside all the time? Ariel looked at her curiously. Ariel. Thoughts. This is my fault. I should have told her earlier. I'm sorry. Ariel reached out and touched Sire Wyan's cheek. It's okay. I'm happy to have Ariel with me. Sire Wyan whispered. Her Highness is so cute. Seeing Sire Wyan's adorable appearance, Ariel was even happier. So, where do you want to go today? Well. Sire Wyan hesitated. One of the reasons why I'm hesitant about eating is because something happened during this period that made me even more cautious. That incident is known as the Princess Ragdoll incident. In her past life, a carriage passing through the commoner's district overturned, spilling the garbage bags it carried. And the garbage bags weren't filled with just anything, but high-quality food that looked completely untouched. People were very surprised. Strange rumors quickly spread. Perfectly good food, just thrown away. I heard those trashes were thrown out from the Imperial Princess Palace. I heard this isn't the first or second time. I saw it too. That time, they also threw away perfectly good food, all thrown out from the Imperial Princess Palace. One day, in the Commoner's District, within a pile of garbage, people discovered food that was barely eaten. Rumors quickly spread throughout the area, and someone said the garbage was thrown out from Princess Sire Wyan Ibegothel's palace. Although Sire Wyan Ibegothel was very young when that happened and didn't remember it clearly, there was one thing she remembered very well. Back then, Adeline Albedethel came to find Sire Wyan Ibegothel. Sire Wyan, does the palace food not suit your taste? The food, isn't tasty. Sire Wyan Ibegothel said fearfully. Even my father's icy gaze terrified me back then. I gave such an answer in confusion, because back then, I only ate the delicious food Sire gave me. I still can't forget the disappointed look on my father's face after hearing my answer. Walking in the hallway, Sire Wyan Ibegothel recalled what happened in her past life. She murmured, back then, I always thought it was my fault. Your Highness, what did you just say? Alia didn't hear clearly, so he asked, Sire Wyan Ibegothel turned to look at him, nothing. Alia looked at Sire Wyan Ibegothel curiously. He walked in front of Sire Wyan Ibegothel, bent down, and asked, do your legs hurt? Sire Wyan Ibegothel shook her head. No, they don't. I thought the negative rumors about me in the past were all caused by my childish mistakes, so I took all the blame. Alia looked at her and said, if you're tired, tell me immediately. Do you understand? Sire Wyan Ibegothel shook her head. I'm not tired. But that wasn't my fault. Your Highness, that's not the way to the garden, Alia asked curiously. I know. I'm going to the kitchen. Sire Wyan Ibegothel turned to look at the courtyard. Continue going forward. Alia watched her run forward with her arms swinging, and couldn't help but think, so cute, so precious. After he reacted, he asked, wait a minute. You're going to the kitchen. Are you hungry? Then I'll get you some snacks. I'm not hungry. I want to take a look. Sire Wyan Ibegothel turned her head, and looked at him curiously. Why is Alia so flustered? Alia thought, dang it. Her Highness will be sad if she sees this. What should I do? Why haven't the funds arrived yet? Alia said nervously, there shouldn't be anything interesting there. Do you mind? I don't mind. Sire Wyan Ibegothel thought in confusion, funds. What funds? She looked at the empty kitchen. Where is everyone? Alia said nervously, have you all finished your work for the morning? Sire Wyan Ibegothel looked around the kitchen with a disappointed expression. It should be time to prepare dinner, but the kitchen staff were nowhere to be seen. Although the kitchen was tidy, there were almost no ingredients. There should be almost no garbage generated in this kind of place. Why would people say that garbage came from the Imperial Princess Palace? No, how could they be sure it came from the Imperial Princess Palace? It definitely wasn't the people on the carriage who told them. So how did they know? Alia looked at her and suggested, Your Highness, would you like some snacks? I see you seem interested in the kitchen, so why don't you eat here before leaving? Millimeter, okay. Sire Wyan Ibegothel said softly, please have some snacks first. I'll prepare chicken soup for your dinner. Alia explained, the recent meals haven't been very good. Fortunately, we were able to receive ingredients this time. Sire Wyan Ibegothel ate the food on the table. Thinking to herself, the meals haven't been good. I don't think so at all. Compared to the food Sire made, this is much better. Oh my, slow down. Seeing her eating so happily, Alia couldn't help but ask, do you like it? Millimeter, it's delicious. Sire Wayan Ibergothel looked up and saw the status above Alia's head. Alia thought, it's good that Her Highness likes it. I hope my little sister gets better soon. Why won't her fever go down? It turned out Alia's little sister also had a fever. Sire Wayan Ibergothel closed her eyes, then opened them again, thinking of Alia's sister's illness, and the garbage incident. This time, things can change. I can do it. Tonight, let's deal with Alia's sister's fever first. Sire Wayan Ibergothel looked around, hoping to find something here. When she saw a door at the end of the hall, emitting a bright light, she walked in and looked at the beautiful sea of flowers before her, exclaiming softly, wow, it's so beautiful. It's like another world, just through a single door. Who are you? A small boy saw Sire Wayan Ibergothel and asked, who are you? Hair's small. He looks about my age. Sire Wayan Ibergothel looked the small boy up and down. Platinum blonde hair, silver eyes. She gasped. Could it be the Magic Tower Master, Kalman? Although born in the Commoners District, he possessed outstanding spiritual power, affinity, and magical abilities. Therefore, he was taken as an apprentice by the Magic Tower Master and later became the new Magic Tower Master. Perhaps because of his origins in her past life. Kalman said coldly to Sire Wayan Ibergothel, please move. Sire Wayan Ibergothel flinched and moved aside. Die. You evil weed, executing extermination now. Sire Wayan Ibergothel stood on the extermination platform, and peeked at Kalman. Until the last moment of my life, I asked who you are. Kalman asked again. Sire Wayan Ibergothel finally turned around. He walked up to Sire Wayan Ibergothel and continued to ask, this is my secret base. Who are you? I have to go back. Sire Wayan Ibergothel looked up at the courtyard. Oh? Kalman Kasarov, occupation. Magic Tower Master's apprentice, level, favorability. Emotion. Very excited. Kalman's status bar, thought. Who is he? An angel. So cute. Could I be hallucinating? How could this be? Hes excited, not angry. Sire Wayan Ibergothel looked at his status in surprise. What's going on? Can't you speak? Kalman asked curiously. Sire. Sire Wayan. Sire Wayan Ibergothel. She said cautiously. Sire Wayan. Kalman looked at her curiously. He then forgot and said, no, it's Sire Wayan, Sire Wayan, Sire Wayan. Kalman repeated. Sire Wayan Ibergothel nodded lightly. That's right. Kalman's status bar above his head clearly showed. Favorability. So cute. Who is she? Is she a mage? Sire Wayan Ibergothel went to find a medicine teacher, to help Alia's sister. She happened to see a wide-open door. After entering, she even met the Magic Tower Master, Kalman. Kalman turned around, took off his coat, and placed it on the ground. He said to Sire Wayan Ibergothel, sit. He suddenly asked me to sit on his robe. Sire Wayan Ibergothel hesitated. I heard that mags regard their robes as important. Sit here. Sire Wayan Ibergothel looked at her status bar. Favorability appeared again. So she asked. Kalman touched his hair. Yes. Since the favorability is increasing, then there shouldn't be any problem with sitting down. However, Sire Wayan Ibergothel looked at him nervously. I thought he just casually threw it down. I didn't expect it to be so neatly spread out. Kalman Kasarov thought. Why isn't she sitting down? This spot has the best view. Should I get her a softer cushion? Kalman kept glancing at Sire Wayan. Sire Wayan Ibergothel, seeing this, thought to herself, why are his thoughts getting stranger and stranger? I'd better sit down. Kalman saw Sire Wayan Ibergothel sit on the robe he had spread out, and was stunned for a moment. It's true. The view is better from here. Sire Wayan Ibergothel looked up at the surrounding scenery. By the way, speaking of which, if it's Kalman, he definitely knows where the medicine teacher's courtyard that I'm looking for is. He doesn't seem to dislike me right now. If I ask him, he might tell me. Hearing Sire Wayan Ibergothel's words, Kalman's expression softened. Looking at what? He folded his arms. So you want to come again? All right, then I'll specially allow you to come to my secret base. Before Sire Wayan Ibergothel could finish, he continued, this is my special permission. Do you understand? Kalman Kasarov thought. So beautiful. How can she be so cute? I hope she comes again in the future. Sire Wayan Ibagothal said awkwardly, thank you. Thank you. Kalman suddenly moved closer to Sire Wayan Ibagothal, looked down at her and said, but, what kind of magic are you learning? Are you a noble? Then sat down next to Sire Wayan Ibagothal. No. It seems you're not a mage. Sire Wayan Ibagothal answered softly, but why didn't you ask my name? Kalman asked curiously. It seems you're not curious. Sire Wayan Ibagothal said awkwardly, what's your name? I already know his name. Platinum blonde hair, whiter than the snowfields, the youngest magic tower master. He's famous for being taciturn and aloof. Kalman. Kalman turned to look at Sire Wayan Ibagothal and said, you can call me Kalman. He was clearly so different before. Little one, you should go back. It's getting late. You shouldn't be wandering around alone. Hearing his words, Sire Wayan Ibagothal said softly, aren't you alone too? I? Of course, I can. I'm so much taller than you. Kalman stood up, a faint blush creeping onto his cheeks. Sire Wayan Ibagothal looked at him, quite speechless. Is he really the Kalman I know? What are you doing? Hurry up and follow me. Kalman turned to look at Sire Wayan Ibagothal. Thinking about it, his name seems a little different too. Kalman Kasarov. In her past life, he was from a commoner family and had no surname. Sire Wayan Ibagothal lowered her head and muttered. It's a new surname. Seeing that Sire Wayan Ibagothal hadn't stood up, Kalman looked at her and thought, was my tone too harsh? But why are you out alone so late? I'm looking for something. Sire Wayan Ibagothal looked up and said. Looking for what? Tell me. Although it's troublesome, I can help you look. Kalman asked curiously. I'm looking for something that looks like this. Sire Wayan Ibagothal drew on the ground. All right. Kalman looked down. Kalman, Kasarov thought. What's this? Is it a chimney? But she clearly said it was a flower. Sire Wayan Ibagothal looked at the status bar and was shocked. Like this. Sire Wayan Ibagothal used her hands to mimic a flower blooming. Small, yellow. Kalman pointed to his chest. A flower. He snapped his fingers. Cute. Its name is Karsa. Sire Wayan Ibagothal thought carefully and said, small, yellow. Karsa. Kalman repeated, Karsa, Karsa. I think I've seen it in the old man's courtyard. How much do you need? Well. Sire Wayan Ibagothal stretched out her hand. This much. If you only need this much, there's some nearby. Kalman turned around to look. Seeing his status bar constantly displaying favorability. Really? It's too dangerous for you to go alone. Kalman turned to look at Sire Wayan Ibagothal and said, then I have no choice, but to help you. Sire Wayan Ibagothal was suddenly touched. At times like this, it felt like the past life was just a dream. People's actions, words, and thoughts were so gentle and sweet, vastly different from her memories. People's actions, words, and thoughts were so gentle and sweet. Vastly different from her memories. Sire Wayan Ibagothal followed Kalman to look. Here, is it this one? Kalman pointed to the flower on the ground. Yes, it's Karsa. Sire Wayan Ibagothal crouched down and looked at the flower. Kalman, you're amazing. It's nothing. Kalman turned his head shyly. What, are you going to take the whole plant? Can you carry it all tonight? Let me do it. Seeing Kalman picking the Karsa, Sire Wayan Ibagothal. Thank you for helping me. Favorability, it's really troublesome. I'm doing this especially for you. Kalman turned his head and said. Kalman Kasarov thought. Her hands are so small, how can I let her do this? Let me do it. Seeing Kalman picking Karsa while muttering, Sire Wayan Ibagothal said softly, thank you. But why are you taking the whole plant? Are you going to grow it? Kalman looked up at Sire Wayan Ibagothal curiously. No, I'm going to eat it. Sire Wayan Ibagothal explained. What? Kalman was puzzled. You can eat this. Sire Wayan Ibagothal looked down at the Karsa. Karsa can be used as medicine. Are you mistaken? Kalman pondered. Well, this kind of flower does have slight medicinal properties. That's right. Kalman hesitated a little. Worried, Sire Wayan Ibagothal fell into deep thought. But as far as I know, the medicinal effect of this flower is very weak. What if she accidentally ingests the wrong part? Sire Wayan Ibagothal turned to look at the courtyard. She thought, I can see everything you're thinking. Kalman looked at the Kasa. Can I give it to her? Or should I not? Kasa has a relatively strong medicinal effect. Kalman was worried about Sire Weian Erbogothal's health, hesitating whether to give it to her. Seeing him like this, Sire Weian thought, for a child, she said she wanted to eat this without thinking. He must be worried about me. So Kalman is a kind person. Like Kalman, most people think Kasa only has very weak medicinal properties. Its true effects were only discovered much later. In her past life, Alia cried and said, I didn't say, back then, she probably also had a fever. I won't forget the day Kasa's true effects were discovered. If I had known earlier, I could have saved my sister. Alia sighed. Alia's sister had a mild fever that was spreading among children. Although Kasa's fever-reducing effect was minimal for adults, it was effective against childhood fevers. Although she couldn't save Alia's sister in her past life, she could change it now. Kalman handed the Kasa to Sire Weian. Is this enough now? Thank you so much. Sire Weian took the Kasa and looked down at it in her hands. Seeing this, Kalman thought happily, so pretty. Her clothes are dirty. If I had known, I would have wrapped it in my robe for her. Why didn't I think of that earlier? Thinking of this, he ruffled his hair in frustration. Can we go now? Kalman asked. Sire Weian nodded. By the way, why don't you attend magic classes? Kalman stopped and turned to look at Sire Weian, asking, Your spirit vessel is so obvious. Spirit vessel. Sire Weian looked at him curiously. Kalman crossed his arms. Yes, it's very obvious. This means your spiritual power and affinity are very high. Didn't you know? That's impossible. Sire Weian said incredulously. Although I'm a royal, I had absolutely no magical ability in my past life. Maybe that's why magic has always been an unattainable power for me. Can I really learn magic? Are you serious? Sire Weian asked uncertainly. Of course I'm serious. There's no reason for me to lie to you. Kalman was a little flustered. Really? Sire Weian asked again. Yes, it's true. Kalman affirmed. Sire Weian was ecstatic. I thought it was an ability I could never have. Calm down, Sire Weian. Now is not the time to get your hopes up about such uncertain things. Let's deal with the matter at hand first. Although the fever-reducing medicine has been found, the garbage problem still needs to be solved. What if? What if? Sire Weian looked at him and said. Kalman looked at him curiously. He continued, If I want to see the palace discarding garbage, where should I go? Garbage? Kalman looked at him strangely. He nodded. Maybe Kalman will know. Well, the garbage should be taken to a designated place before being sent out, right? Kalman touched his hair and said. It should be taken out from the south gate. Closest to the commoners' district. A designated place, Sire Weian asked. Kalman put his hands down. Yes, I saw it when I lived near there. Then his expression darkened slightly. Now he knows him from the commoners' district. Will he hate me? Kalman, you're amazing. You know everything. Sire Weian looked at him with admiration. Seeing this, Kalman blushed shyly. His favorability kept increasing. Well, I am quite capable. It looks like it's going to rain soon. We need to hurry. You have to keep this a secret for me today, okay? Do you understand? Sire Weian looked at Kalman and said, I'll keep it a secret for you as long as you promise me one thing. Kalman looked at her and said. She asked curiously, what is it? Promise me you'll learn magic in the future. Sire Weian looked at Kalman's status bar above his head. Kalman Kasarov thought. That way, I can see her again, right? Sire Weian lowered her head and thought, can I learn? I didn't learn magic in my past life, because I had no talent for it. But since Kalman said so, maybe I really can. He lowered his head and said dejectedly, what if I can't learn it? You'll definitely learn it. Just promise me you'll try. Kalman looked at her and said. You can do this. Sire Weian raised her head and nodded firmly. I'll definitely keep my promise. He stretched out his hand. Pinky promise. Okay, pinky promise. Kalman also stretched out his hand. The two made a pinky promise. Sire Weian said, this is a promise just between the two of us. Your Highness. Where are you? Sire Weian heard the voice and looked over. It's Alia. I have to go now. Is that so? Kalman looked at Sire Weian reluctantly. You can come to my secret base in the future too. I'll specially allow you to come, Kalman Kasparov thought. I really hope to see her again. Seeing the status bar, Sire Weian smiled and said, okay, Kalman will become more and more amazing in the future. It's amazing that someone like him wants to see me again, although he probably won't care about someone like me in the future. But the name Kasparov sounds familiar. Where have I heard it before? Alia found Sire Weian and called out anxiously, Your Highness. Sire Weian stretched out her hands towards him. Alia. It's so late, where have you been? Alia asked with concern. Alia, this. Alia saw Sire Weian holding flowers, covered in dirt, and his expression changed dramatically. Oh my. What happened to you? He rushed to Sire Weian's side and looked at her worriedly. Are you hurt, Your Highness? You should have told me before you went out. Are you sure you're okay? Alia stood up and said anxiously, especially on a warm night like this. Sire Weian lowered her head, not knowing what to do. What should I do? I made Alia angry. I should have told him before going out. He gripped his coffee tightly. With my impatience to save her. What's wrong with me, Alia? Alia. I'm sorry. Sylvienne burst into tears. Your Highness, Alia's sharp aura softened considerably. Alia thought. I should have been gentler with her. I was too impatient. Since it's Her Highness, Sylvienne opened her eyes and looked at the status bar above his head. Alia thought, then Alia thought. Ever since Sarah was around, I haven't been very concerned about Her Highness, so she's even more afraid. But if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to stay by her side, Sylvienne thought in secret. After all, even the slightest show of affection for Her Highness would be noticed by everyone. That's why he acted so cold towards me when Sarah was here. After seeing the status bar above Alia's head, Sylvienne finally understood. It was because of Sarah that Alia had stayed by her side, which is why she had ignored him before. Sylvienne handed the casa flower to Alia. Alia, this. I wanted to. Somewhere deep inside, he was flinching. He said stiffly, I won't do it again. I was wrong. Because in my past life, Alia stayed by my side for so long. Is this flower for me? Alia looked at the yellow flower warmly. Sylvienne was touched by Dort's words. Alia was deeply moved. Your Highness did this for me. You can come out anytime, but you must promise me that you'll tell me before you come out next time. Can you do that? Sylvienne nodded. Yes. I promise. Good. Thank you for giving me the flower. I'm very happy. Alia smiled. Really? This? Sylvienne looked up at him. This is medicine. What? You said this is medicine. Alia looked surprised. Didn't you say your sister was sick? Sylvienne explained softly, when I went to see His Majesty, I heard that this medicine is very effective against fevers. You must give it to your sister. This medicine. Alia looked at the yellow flower in her hand. I only mentioned it casually, but Her Highness actually remembered. Your Highness, she looked at Sylvienne with gratitude. Don't worry, Your Highness. Even if it's for your sake, I will definitely give it to my sister. Sylvienne smiled softly. Not long after that day, Alia, who had taken the casa flowers home, received good news. Alia rushed to Sylvienne's room, and said excitedly, Your Highness, my sister's fever has subsided. Really? That's great. Sylvienne turned to look at her. It's all thanks to the medicine you gave me. Thank you so much. Alia said joyfully. Now Alia can finally breathe a sigh of relief. However, Alia must miss her sister very much. Shouldn't she go back and see her? Alia looked at the fine weather. Where do you want to run today? Over there. Sylvienne pointed and started walking. Alia followed behind him. If you get tired, please tell me. Sylvienne held her stuffed toy lively. I'm not tired. What needs to be solved now is the Triuragi incident. I have to figure things out before it happens. According to KS words, clues about the Triuragi incident can be found near the south gate. He looked at the people coming and going not far away. There are so many people here. He squatted behind a pillar and peeked out. I can't believe it. Your Majesty, I assent that the direction to the south gate. Isgong said to Adele An. Silently, Isgong continued, he said he was going for a walk. Hes walked quite far. There shouldn't be anything to see here. Ha ha, could it be that you came because you heard that Her Highness is taking a walk here, so? Adele Arn stopped. He turned and glared at him. Are you making fun of me? Is there a problem? Seeing his displeasure, Isgong wiped his forehead with his hand. How could that be? I was just speaking carelessly, Adele Arn. Adele Arn turned his head and continued walking. Isgong followed closely behind him. Right here, that's the royal stable. Dorte and Sylvienne looked at each other at the same time. Sylvienne was nervous when she saw him. Why is father here? Alia followed Sylvienne and bowed to Adele Arn. Greetings, your majesty. Adele Arn glanced at Sylvienne's old backpack and said, Isgong was right. It's good that I came. Oh my, what a coincidence. Isgong scratched his head. Did your majesty really come here for a walk by chance? Adele Arn nodded with satisfaction. Yes, indeed. Sylvienne looked up at the status bar above Adele Arn's head. Adele Arn thought. She looks so beautiful today, but her clothes seem old. Sylvienne thought through gritted teeth. Out of all times, why did I run into father when I'm wearing old clothes? Although I don't have many clothes and can only wear them in rotation, and most of my clothes are old, I should have worn my cleanest outfit. Why, oh why? Adele Arn walked up to her, bent down, and looked at her. Do your legs hurt? Huh? Sylvienne hurriedly said, no. No? Then what's wrong? Alia saw Sylvienne fidgeting, so she stepped forward. It seems that there are too many people here, and Her Highness is a little shy. Adele Arn thought. Is she scared of me? I'm not scared, but I don't know how to explain. Sylvienne thought, and Adele Arn thought. She's still shy. There's no helping it. Although I'm reluctant, I should leave quickly. If this continues, father will turn around and leave me again. Sylvienne thought anxiously. Well, be like we were in my past life. I don't want that. It's okay, it was fine last time. Don't panic. Just grab father. This is the low-ranking officials' store. It's where the low-ranking officials of each department work. Yes? Sylvienne looked at the store in front of her. The Imperial Palace has departments. The department with the most personnel is the Department of Magical Affairs. Magical Affairs. Hex was surprised to hear Adele Arn say so much. Hex thought. No, Her Highness is still young. How can you tell her these boring things? Therefore, now that the continent is at peace, it is especially important to maintain a balance in diplomatic relations. Adele Arn crossed his arms and lectured earnestly. Do you understand? Sylvienne thought. I didn't understand most of it. Sylvienne looked at her a little embarrassed. Because I didn't study diplomacy in my past life. I see. At least answer properly. Hearing her words, Adele Arn sighed slightly. Hex looked at her helplessly. Your Majesty, Her Highness hasn't formally received any education yet. Thank you, Dokas. Sylvienne lowered her head. Over there. A horse neighed from the stable. That's the stable I'm looking for. She looked into the distance with longing. Horses. Sylvienne thought longingly. I want to see them. I have to go over there no matter what. Hex and Adele Arn looked at him with surprise. Did he say he wants to see them? Sylvienne looked expectant. Well, he's still young, and he might be curious about horses. Let's go and have a look. Adele Arn's favorability increased steadily. Your Majesty, you're right. Hex agreed. Sylvienne thought, and Adele Arn thought. She's still shy. There's nothing I can do. Though I'm reluctant, I should leave quickly. If this continues, father will turn away from me again. Sylvienne's mouth opened and closed. Sylvienne thought worriedly. Well, be like my past life. I don't want that. It's fine, it was okay last time. Don't panic, grasp onto father. He reached out and grabbed Adele Arn's sleeve. Adele Arn turned and looked at him. This is, let's go together. Sylvienne looked up at Adele Arn. Scene change. Sylvienne sat on the carpet eating snacks. I only tugged on father's sleeve a little. Eat more. Is there anything else you want to eat? Adele Arn looked at Sylvienne's cute appearance with satisfaction. I didn't expect things to turn out like this. Sylvienne thought with embarrassment. I'm still eating. No, you'll still have someone bring you something else. Hearing his words, Sylvienne was speechless. How can father hide his inner thoughts so well? Just now, he said there's nothing he can do. Since Sylvienne isn't shy around me, I'll accompany her. I think I saw father smile for a moment, though it quickly disappeared. Adele handed a plate of macarons to Sylvienne. Here you go. He's really surprising. Sylvienne took the plate. Thank you. Sylvienne and Adele prepared a lot of unfamiliar food for him. Sylvienne noticed that Alia kept her head down. Alia thought. Can I take the macarons Her Highness is eating with me? If I store them properly, they should last a long time as snacks. Has been having these thoughts lately. Should I ask for some when we leave? Sylvienne thought with her head lowered. However, Adele called softly, Ah? Sylvienne looked up at him in surprise. Why did you come here for a walk? He asked curiously. Well, I was just a little curious. Sylvienne's eyes darted around. I can tell him that I know what will happen in Malaysia and what others are thinking. Adele rested his hand on his chin. Is this your first time here? Yes, it's my first time. Sylvienne answered nervously. Let's go. I'll show you around. Adele suggested. Sylvienne thought. That's great. It's probably better than wandering around alone. He looked around expectantly. They were talking about the carriage shed, right? I overheard the maids mentioning it yesterday. That shed is near the south gate. Luckily, I'm familiar with this area. The shed should be right behind the low-ranking official's store. Adele looked down at Sylvienne and asked with concern, Do your legs hurt? Sylvienne shook her head. No, they don't. That's so cute. Adele closed his eyes slightly. Is that so? Reaching the stable, Adele said to Sylvienne, Take your time and look around. The Empire's horses are known for their excellent breeds. This is because the Empire is located in the north, and in order to deal with inferior monsters more easily, we have continuously improved the breeds of horses to be more resistant to cold and faster. Adele thought. My daughter is so smart. She actually saw the strategic value of the horses and asked to come and see them. Sylvienne looked at her father's smug expression. No, it's not like that. The carriages still look normal. It seems that it hasn't happened yet. That's good. He breathed a sigh of relief. What are you looking at? Adele followed his gaze. The carriages. Adele turned his head and looked. Do you want to try sitting in one? There seems to be something inside. Sylvienne flinched. Officer, go and get the things out of the carriage. Adele ordered. Yes, Your Majesty. There's something in the carriage. Damn. Sylvienne thought with a pale face. He saw a huge black bag. What should I do? He immediately recalled what Adele had said earlier. If it doesn't suit your taste. Sylvienne clenched her fists, her body trembling uncontrollably. Your Majesty, this. Hex saw the food inside the bag. It seems to be Chuyuragi. Adele looked surprised. Isn't it Chuyuragi? How? Sudam squatted down and looked at the things in the bag. Sylvienne grabbed Adele's sleeve. Found it. Didik. Why are you here? It's so dirty. The stableman hurried over. Athingmujian yelled, Maju, Huxajan Samsib Sahajib. Angzingmu thought fearfully. Oh no, oh no. I'm dead if I'm discovered. He stood tremblingly beside Adele. Are you in charge of this place? Adele asked sternly. Hex said to him, Your Majesty, I've taken a closer look, and something seems amiss. If it is Chuyuragi, the condition of this food seems a bit too good. Also, why would Chuyuragi be placed in a wagon? Isn't there a designated place for handling Chuyuragi in the palace? Indeed, it's suspicious. Adele's expression turned serious. It seems someone is trying to smuggle food out of the palace. Hex nodded and glanced at Angzingmu. Adele glared at Angzingmu. Interrogate that man, and we should be able to find out the truth. Angzingmu trembled with fear. Wow, when did the soldiers arrive? Were they following me all along? Sylvienne hid behind Adele. Your Majesty really didn't know. Save me. Angzingmu cried out, I'm innocent. So scary. Sylvienne closed her eyes tightly. Come here. Adele reached out to her. She stopped crying. Adele held her in his arms. It's all right. Don't be afraid. Sylvienne looked up at Adele Anne. Father is hugging me. Though I'm a little embarrassed, I feel much calmer. Interrogate that man thoroughly and find out the source of the Triuragi. Adele Anne ordered the guards. Yes, Your Majesty. Sylvienne, you should go back too. Sylvienne looked up at him. Is this all I can do? But since father is suspicious of the Triuragi, the situation will definitely be different from my past life. Sylvienne and Adele Anne discovered Triuragi at the stable. Seeing that the Triuragi is in excellent condition, Adele Anne suspects that someone is trying to smuggle food out of the palace. He ordered the interrogation of the stableman, Ang Xingmu. Excuse me, Your Majesty. I think you may need to see this. Hex placed a flag on Adele Anne's desk. Adele Anne looked at it, and his expression changed drastically. What's going on? Say. Why is the Imperial Princess flag here? This was found at the stableman's residence, who was apprehended yesterday. Hex said with a grim expression. What? Adele Anne stood up immediately. Hex continued, this flag was hidden in that man's residence. This matter may be related to Her Highness. What do you mean by that? Adele Anne glared at him furiously. It is possible that Her Highness spent too much money on food and ended up having to throw it away secretly. Beads of sweat formed on Hex's forehead. Let's go. Adele Anne turned and walked towards the door. Where are you going? Hex asked puzzled. To Her Highness' palace. Adele Anne said with a grave expression. Meanwhile, Alia held a plate of macarons and said to Sylvienne, Your Highness, look, there are so many macarons. Wow, I'm so happy. Sylvienne ate one. It's delicious. You should eat some too. Your Highness, I won't eat anymore, Alia thought with a satisfied expression. It's a good thing I shamelessly asked for some earlier. The food recently hasn't been good. You seem particularly happy today. Do you like macarons that much? No, I like Alia more, Sylvienne said softly. You're so. Alia said shyly, I do have other things to be happy about, but I can't tell Alia. Sylvienne smiled happily. Alia's sister has recovered. The Triuragi incident I've been worried about was addressed early. I don't know where that coachman stole so much food from. Anyway, it's great. Since father has ordered an investigation, I shouldn't be wrongly accused. Of course, I still have many questions. Why was the Imperial Princess Palace framed? And how did the rumors spread so quickly? I was so anxious that I don't even remember the prince. A commotion could be heard. He turned his head to look. Why is it so loud outside? What's going on? Your Highness, you'll go out and have a look. Alia glanced at the closed door. Sylvienne hummed in response. Adele Anne pushed open the door and walked in. Why? Your Majesty. Alia hurriedly bowed. Sylvienne was startled by Adele Anne's voice. Adele Anne thought. Did the Triuragi really come from the Imperial Princess Palace? Sylvienne anxiously looked at the status bar above her head. How could this be? How can she be misunderstood again? Is it going to be like my past life again? Sylvienne, I have something to ask you. Adele Anne looked at him with a serious expression. You must answer me truthfully. Sylvienne trembled with fear. Have you been wasting food? Hearing his words, Sylvienne clenched her fists. As expected, the past isn't so easy to change. Sylvienne. Adele Anne saw the food on the table and asked curiously. What are you eating? This is. Sylvienne thought in panic. It's the leftover snacks from yesterday's tea party that I took back to my room without permission. What do I do? If he finds out, he might be angry. Your Majesty, I deserve to die. Alia knelt on the floor and said, Dokas. Who are you? Adele Anne looked at Dokas in confusion. Alia raised her head and said, I'm the chief maid serving Her Highness. I'm Alia. Ali. Sylvienne walked over to Alia's side and called out. All right, you're the chief maid. What did you do wrong? Adele Anne asked. Sylvienne saw the status bar above Alia's head. Alia thought. I have to protect Her Highness. Alia. Sylvienne burst into tears. Adele Anne turned his head to look. Sniff took the food from yesterday. Sylvienne sobbed as she spoke. I took it back. I was wrong. Adele Anne was stunned. Sylvienne, don't cry. I'm so scared. I don't want to waste food like before. Sylvienne cried even harder. So, this is really the leftover food from yesterday. Sylvienne nodded at his words. Adele unrubbed his forehead, his brow furrowed. Sigh, what's going on? Isgong gulped nervously. Your Majesty. Forgive me, Your Majesty. The Imperial Princess Palace is barely receiving any funding right now. What did you say? Adelian Albaedet was shocked. What was this nonsense? I clearly gave you enough money, but it's true that there's only me, as the exclusive maid in the Princess Palace right now. Even though Ariel is afraid and her body reacts, it still doesn't make sense. Ariel can't go on like this. If this continues, even Ariel won't be able to hold on. I can't lose Ariel. I have to do something. Sawyan Albaedet. His eyes were filled with tears. Just then, Shishong walked in and bowed to Adelian Albaedet. Your Majesty, have you checked it out? Adelian Albaedet turned to look at him. Shishong looked troubled, unsure of how to speak. What's going on? Did father misunderstand something? Because of the tears, I can't see his status. Sawyan Albaedet kept wiping his tears, trying to see clearly. Shishong glanced at Sawyan Albaedet. The Princess Palace kitchen is very strange. There's no food, and no maids are seen working. What does this mean? Do you mean the food has already been thrown away? Adelian Albaedet stared at her. No, that's not it. The Princess Palace kitchen is empty, there aren't even any ingredients for today. Shishong hurriedly explained. How is this possible? Adelian Albaedet was in disbelief. Your Majesty, he's telling the truth. Ariel cried out, ever since I became the chief maid, the Princess Palace hasn't received normal funding. How could we afford food? That definitely has nothing to do with Her Highness. I wanted Her Highness to eat some good food, so I brought back the leftovers from yesterday. The maids in the other palaces also thought it was for me to eat. So they kindly gave them to me. Please don't punish them. Adelian Albaedet felt heartbroken seeing Ariel kneeling and begging for mercy. Ariel was worried that Adelian Albaedet would blame Sawyan Albaedet, so she took all the blame upon herself. Sawyan Albaedet saw this scene and was very moved. I didn't. Sawyan Albaedet clutched Adelian Albaedet's skirt tightly. Sawyan. Adelian Albaedet called softly. I didn't steal the food. Sawyan Albaedet plucked up the courage and confessed. I've been wanting to tell him this since my past life. It wasn't me. I'm not that kind of bad kid. Please believe me. Adelian Albaedet seemed to want to say something. After hesitating for a moment, she said, I believe you. No matter what happens, I believe you. The little birds outside the window chirped actively. Sawyan Albaedet's eyes were a little red. She sat on Adelian Albaedet's lap, letting out a sigh. After crying for so long, she had no strength left. Fortunately, things were resolved smoothly. Although it's fortunate that the matter was resolved, is it really okay? But the swelling has to go down. Ariel helped Sawyan Albaedet reduce the swelling with an ice pack. He looked at Sawyan Albaedet with concern. But I seem to have cried too much. As the chief maid, I actually let Her Highness cry so much. It's really my fault. Ariel felt very self-reproachful. No, it's not Ariel's fault. Sawyan Albaedet hurriedly explained. Then what have you been eating before? Adelian Albaedet asked suspiciously. Tell me everything. I've been trying to make do with the remaining funds, but it's not enough. Ariel confessed nervously. So I used my authority to if it's still not enough, I go to other palaces and ask for leftovers. Ariel explained. Ariel has worked so hard. Sawyan Albaedet looked at her in surprise. Oh my god. This is shocking. He thought. Albaedet touched Sawyan Albaedet's head. Sawyan Albaedet turned to look at her. Adelian Albaedet thought, what have I done to such a small child? Anyway, Sawyan Albaedet thought with a blank expression, why is everyone so close? Compared to when Saar was here, the food is much better now. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Adelian Albaedet asked angrily. Your Majesty, it's the Empress. Ariel said with a troubled expression. Adelian Albaedet thought, is he afraid of the Empress? Sawyan Albaedet looked at Adelian Albaedet's status above her head in confusion. Would Her Majesty really do this to us? Also, besides her, no one else could do this. In the Albaedet Empire, the Emperor is responsible for governing the people and managing the affairs of the Empire, while his consort, the Empress, is responsible for managing the internal affairs. of the palace. This has always been the rule. However, if the child is illegitimate and still young, the child's biological mother can exercise many powers. But for a child like me without a biological mother, everything is managed by the Empress, and the Emperor must respect the Empress management as much as possible. This rule is called the Emperor's Covenant. It is not only a long-standing tradition of the Empire, but also clearly recorded in the Empire's highest law. So father can't help me with this problem either. Sawayan al-Baydat looked at Adelian al-Baydat, who was holding her head with a troubled expression, and thought sadly, "I'm sorry, father. I'm sorry for you." Adelian al-Baydat looked at her and apologized sincerely. "I will personally take care of all your matters from now on." Later, I slept soundly. While I was fast asleep, what happened in the princess palace? Someone was taken away, and trustworthy people were assigned in. Father's furious roar swept through the entire palace. The ministers could only quietly observe his expression, and even the empress couldn't escape his wrath. Shibal al-Baydat lowered her head with a look of grievance. "Your Majesty, I really didn't know. Empress, do you think this makes sense?" Adelian al-Baydat said angrily. "I have no intention of making excuses. If I am guilty, it is only because I trusted my servants too much." Shibal al-Baydat explained, "But I am innocent." Sawayan al-Baydat looked awkwardly at the scene unfolding before her. "Father called me here, so I came, but why?" Shibal al-Baydat turned to look at Sawayan al-Baydat. "Princess, why don't you tell us what you saw?" Sawayan al-Baydat saw this and stepped back in fear. "Now, do you really think your mother," Shibal al-Baydat placed her hand on her chest and cried, "is the bad person who abused you?" Shibal al-Baydat thought with favorability, how did this brat know where the kitchen waste was? Such a good plan failed. Sawayan al-Baydat saw this scene and was shocked. Shibal al-Baydat gestured with her finger like she was educating someone. Shibal al-Baydat thought, this brat is really troublesome. Why isn't he saying anything? Everything she says is fake. I don't want to answer her. Sawayan al-Baydat retreated in fear. Adelian al-Baydat saw Sawayan al-Baydat crouching behind her. Adelian al-Baydat's favorability continued to increase. Shibal al-Baydat's favorability continued to decrease. Sawayan al-Baydat closed her eyes in fear, no longer looking at Shibal al-Baydat. "Princess, how can you?" Shibal al-Baydat asked angrily. "There's nothing I can do. Sawayan is very shy." Adelian al-Baydat took Sawayan al-Baydat into her arms. "She's shy around everyone except me, so it's very troublesome." Sawayan al-Baydat looked up at Adelian al-Baydat. "Actually, it's not like that. Is that so?" Shibal al-Baydat frowned and said with a displeased expression. "But if saying so can help you avoid the Empress, then let's just say that." Sawayan al-Baydat turned her back to Shibal al-Baydat, refusing to look at her. "So I intend." Sawayan al-Baydat pricked up her ears, listening to Adelian al-Baydat. "From tomorrow onwards, I will deprive the Empress of her financial management authority over the Princess Palace." "What? Your Majesty!" Shibal al-Baydat exclaimed. "You can't do this. The Empress' authority to manage the internal affairs of the palace is clearly stated in the Emperor's Covenant. How can you? The Empress dares to use the Emperor's Covenant to pressure me." Adelian al-Baydat's face darkened. Shibal al-Baydat shuddered and hurriedly explained, "I didn't mean that. The Empress should have also heard about the miserable state of the Princess Palace. Even if there are mistakes, you can't punish. Does the Empress want to announce to the world that your authority is above the Emperor's?" Adelian al-Baydat said coldly. "Your Majesty," Shibal al-Baydat said in a panic, "how dare I?" "You misunderstood." Adelian al-Baydat stripped Shibal al-Baydat of her authority over the Princess Palace. Shibal al-Baydat, who tried to pressure Adelian al-Baydat with the Emperor's Covenant, was left speechless. "If you understand what I mean, then obediently hand over your authority," Adelian al-Baydat said coldly. Shibal al-Baydat had no choice. She gritted her teeth. "I understand. You may leave now." Adelian al-Baydat looked at her condescendingly. "Yes." Shibal al-Baydat turned and left. Sawayan al-Baydat looked at her back, lost in thought. "I never would have imagined that I would see Her Majesty like this in my past life." Just then, Shibal al-Baydat turned around and glared at Sawayan al-Baydat. Shibal al-Baydat thought, he really takes after his mother. How annoying. Sawayan al-Baydat saw the status window and was shocked. "What? Mother?" The scene changed. Sawayan al-Baydat sat at the dining table eating macarons. "Sai, what did I do wrong? Why does she hate me so much? Sawayan, are the pastries not to your liking? Adelian Albaydet asked, seeing that she seemed to have no appetite. What did she just call me? Sawayan Albaydet suddenly froze. She blinked her watery eyes and looked at Adelian Albaydet in a daze. Why isn't he answering? Does he not like me calling him that? Adelian Albaydet thought with a troubled expression. My Sawayan wouldn't be like this. It's delicious. Sawayan Albaydet saw Adelian Albaydet's rising favorability towards him. He immediately relaxed. So she really was calling me. He. Is that so? Then eat more. Adelian Albaydet put her hands on the table and said, from now on, whenever you want to eat something. No matter what you want to eat, I will get it for you. Sawayan Albaydet was ecstatic. He asked excitedly, Mom, macarons too? Of course. Adelian Albaydet said with certainty. Great. Sawayan Albaydet smiled brightly. Ariel won't have to worry about food anymore. Sawayan Adelian Albaydet looked at his happy appearance and felt very self-reproachful. He's actually so happy. It's all my fault. Sawayan Albaydet looked at the status above her head. It's not father's fault. But, Adelian Albaydet opened her mouth, as if wanting to say something. She touched Sawayan Albaydet's head. It's okay. Eat quickly. Father worries about me. I'm so happy. Sawayan Albaydet looked at her with a bright smile. The scene changed. Adelian Albaydet stood by the window, looking outside. So my previous feeling that he was suffering wasn't my imagination. I actually didn't notice it all this time. I'm so useless. For some reason, Sawayan has been extremely resistant to me since he could speak. He almost always cried when he saw me, because every time we met, he would cry until he had a seizure. I was worried that he would get sick because of me, so I didn't dare to approach him. It was also because as soon as he saw me, in order not to scare him, I also started to keep my distance from him. But all of this was actually caused by the previous chief maid.